So you can see someone's napping here. Just lying here by the back door. But she's also just reminding me that it's time to get my tools out and deal with our ficus. We've had this Ficus benjamini for over 30 years. And when my wife first got it, it was this beautiful variegated plant. And it grew and got bigger and bigger. And then one day, as they occasionally will do, it sprouted and started growing back in the normal green without the variegated. And the non-variegated, because there's no white patches with no chlorophyll, is going to grow stronger. So over time, it really became dominant. I did cut it back a bit this last year, and trying to get some of the green variegated to come out stronger, which has happened. But now it's time, I think, to be a little more drastic. So I'm going to take this one tree and turn it into 2 or 3 or 4. The main thing I'll be doing is air layering, probably in here on this thick part of the trunk. You can see even here some aerial roots started to come out. So I'll break this up into a couple pieces that'll be new plants. And I might take the ends off some of these very long branches here and try and get growth back down to the trunk. So now to do this, I have some tools, some bonsai wire, a very lazy dog, and some plastic. And most importantly, I have my long fiber sphagnum moss. This is already wetted out. This is a premium sphagnum moss. I use this for my carnivorous plants. I use this in my orchids. And you do not want to get the low quality stuff. This needs to say long fiber, and this particular brand is actually called Best Grow. You can see they really do have the best product, I think, and I believe it is grown sustainably. This is a living product when harvested and dried, so more grows, and actually I have it come back to life in my carnivorous plants. So let me go ahead and I'll set up here and I'll show you the first one, and I'll show you how we would air layer a plant like this and how you can do the same with plants you have. You can do it with Dracaena, a bunch of different plants you can do it with, and it's a great way to make and propagate plants without, when they're large and really wouldn't work just as a big giant cutting, for instance. The top would die before the roots are grown. So let's get this set up and we'll go through the process. All right, so we're going to start right in here, and this is where it transitions from the variegated growth into the new growth that lost its variegation, that reverted back to the green growth. This branch in here, it's hard to see there, but this one going off to the side is variegated. So we're going to make our first air layer right here and separate this whole top to be its own separate tree. I thought about doing it as multiples, but I think I'm just going to make it one big tree, so it's already, a nice plant to begin with. So how this will work is we will make a plastic sleeve to go around this. We will cinch it at the bottom. We will fill it with sphagnum moss, cinch it at the top, and that moist sphagnum moss will sit right there on the trunk. A ficus roots quite readily. They do air root in humid environments, so probably should be no problem with rooting. But for other trees, Japanese maples and others I've done, you have to work a little harder to kind of get it to start looking to root out and become a separate growing entity. So 2 things you can do. You can actually use a small saw or a knife and do some girdling. And that means cutting the vascular tissue in the trunk, in the bark, so there's a less flow of sap and the top wants to sustain itself, so we'll begin creating roots. It'll drive it into a rooting habit. So in this case, I'm just going to use this pruning saw, do a few little cuts around. This will also be a place where it calluses and will create some growth. Now, often people will take off a whole band of bark. I'm not going to do that here. Ficus, as you can already see, have that milky latex type sap, And I do not really want to have a ton of that coming down. The other thing you can do is actually also put something around it that binds it tightly. So in this case, I'm using some bonsai wire. And I'll tighten that like that. And then grab it real close to the trunk and tighten it even further. And you can see it is already beginning to bite into the trunk there. So that'll be my other part of this. And I'm just going to reach in and clip that off. All right, and so I don't stab myself on it, I'll just push that up flush against the tree. All right, so that, again, I'm reducing the flow of sap and cutting some of those vascular passageways, so it's going to start starving this top area, and that will drive it into rooting. And as this will heal pretty quickly on a plant like this, this constriction will help also kind of keep that reduced flow in place. So now we want to make that sleeve, that place to put the rooting material or potting material. I could use potting soil, but the sphagnum moss is really sort of the best for this. And so what I'll do is I just take this clear piece of plastic just from something I received in the mail, and a piece of packing tape, put it along there, and then fold it over and just seal that. That's the quickest and easiest way to make a nice sleeve, as you see there. Now, I have a few of these old twist ties from, in this case, I think it came off of some greens or something we got at the store. And I'll just go around here and tighten that up. Certainly could use more bonsai wire or something, or even tie it with some paracord. All right. And as you see now, I've got this entire little pouch area. And so at this point, I'll take some of this sphagnum moss, and I've already wetted this out nicely into this area. So I've got that ready to go. You don't want it totally soggy. You want it kind of damp. And now really I'm just going to go ahead and start filling this in. Run around all sides. And this is a large area of the trunk, and there's a lot of plant above this, so I do want to give it enough to create enough root. Just take another twist tie and tighten that up there. And we've got nice big pouch of rooting material all around the trunk. It's also the winter, not the best time, not real active growth to do this, but I do want to give it a real jump start in the spring. So I wanted to kind of take care of this now, so when I did the hard pruning and cut these parts away, it's really ready to go. Here you can see it will be a fairly large tree once that's off on its own. So I'm definitely going to have to baby it. I might even like drape plastic over the top, like a clear garbage bag or something, so it can go ahead and support itself well. But there you go. I'll go ahead and do the others, and I'll show you the places I have it separated once I'm done. All right, so I'm finished for today, and I have I did add another one at the top because that top piece was so large. Even now, it's still going to be a large plant from there, so that'll be a nice plant. Here's the one I recorded earlier, the main one on the stem, and that actually would be nice. You can see it'll have this whole branch here. Nice plant as well. Might make a nice bonsai with a thick stem. And then here's the first variegated one, and I've put an air layer on that as well, so that'll be removed and become its own separate plant. So one tree will be 4 trees, and probably in month or two. We'll see. I'll give you an update.